staff and gallery to the April meeting of Council. We meet here in the spirit of respect, cooperation and collaboration. We pay tribute to those who have come before us as we seek to grow our understanding, connection and acknowledgement of our heritage and culture. We pay respect to the traditional custodians of these lands and the European settlers whose customs and traditions have been passed down through 6 generations. Councillors, there is an apology from Councillor Angus, and we'll note Councillor Angus's apology. Item 2.1.1 is the council meeting adoption of the minutes confirmation held on the 18th of March 2024 at 5:30. Councillor Hearn and Councillor Barrett, all those in favour? Carried. Some items for matters arising, there was no matters arising from the previous minutes. And there is no procedural items. The Mayor's report, I might add it's been a pretty hectic, jolly month to say the least. And from World Crossbow Championships held in the Barossa. So we are very much a sporting community, and Don's had all sorts of activities over his way as well, so we embrace many and sundry things. And also I'm pleased to just provide a bit of an upgrade here that the Facilities Fund has provided funds for the installation of the previous lights at the Lyndoch Oval on the second oval for the Little Athletics, so we take on another code. So that's very pleasing, and congratulations for staff for that one. And into our memory chest is a football that was presented to us as a result of many people coming here last Thursday from across, I'll say South Australia, they were far and wide, for a behind-the-scenes conference explaining the big project and how this council's positioned itself the way in which it has, and also taking into account the journey which started a few councils ago, and we had staff involved in the presentation as along with other open space people. So it's been really, really great. I'll elaborate further on the gather round, but I think the media's done most things, and I'm all media'd out. Councillor Priest, question.
Yeah, question with your Mayor's report. In regards to Cromer's Crossing at Tanunda, I couldn't see anywhere whether you showed that you had, whether you did have meetings with the developers of that site or not. I couldn't see anything in there, whether it's been missed or, and whether you have had meetings with the developers of
Cromer's Crossing.
Yeah, the motel that was shelved and yeah.
I haven't had any meetings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I haven't.
I just couldn't see any. I just
No, it probably was nothing there, councillor.
Okay,
yeah, no, sorry. And I sought clarification because I don't remember a meeting that.
No, I just couldn't
remember. I haven't been to any meetings, have I? No. Thanks.
Thank you.
I know age is catching up on me, but I don't remember them. But no, I haven't, councillor. Thanks. Any other questions? Moved Councillor De Vries and seconded Councillor Evans. All those in favour? And just before I move on, I meant to say when I wave this around, my full, and on behalf of you all, heartfelt thanks to the staff and everybody that's been involved. And I include all staff because there was a lot of effort that was put in, and I don't think our service, there was any gaps. So those staff who weren't involved directly, we're all out there still providing services in our community. And once again, I need to sort of touch on the fact is the atmosphere in Tanunda the other night, and I understand Mount Pleasant had a real bump as well over the weekend, and I think everyone's sort of singing, oh, well, it would be amiss of me that some of the comments are that a lot of the state officials are putting this council up as a bit of a model council, so all credit to you people, thank you, and to the staff. It makes the mayor's job pretty darn easy to go out and sell the place. Thank you. Matters for information, is there any questions out of those items that have been listed for matters for information? We'll move on to, sorry, Councillor Evans. That's fine. 7.1.1 is the CEO's annual performance review, 2025, 189. Yep, CEO.
Obviously, Mr Mayor, I have a conflict of interest because it's related to my employment conditions, and I'll hobble out the room, but I'm going to go to the shortest route.
If you'd asked nicely, I would have pushed you out in your chair. Yeah.
Now he knows, Councillor Barrett, what, you know, we've had to put up with for a while. Okay. There is a recommendation there, councillors. Any questions anyone may have?
Yeah, I have a question, Your Worship.
Yep.
So we're absolutely going to do what we did last year?
Yes.
All right.
And it'll be the more streamlined version.
Great.
Yep.
I've been on this committee for the last 2 years. I am more than happy not to be this time. I think maybe somebody else can have a run. I'm very comfortable that if we're going with what we did last year, that it'll work very, very well.
Thank you. Is there anyone who... So you're putting your name forward, councillor? Yep. And can I find another person who would be?
Yeah.
Yep.
Mr Mayor, I've done it a few times as well, but I'm happy to do it again.
Okay. You're putting your name forward, so well, I'll take the recommendation with Councillor Hearn and Councillor Schilling being the council's appointments on that, along with the Deputy Mayor Greatwich. Moved Councillor De Vries and seconded Councillor Evans. All those in favour? Carried. Can you grab Hobble? Sorry, I shouldn't. I shouldn't be so flippant. I apologise. .1.2 is the revision of the land division guidelines on page 193. A very well prepared document with extensive amount of detail. Any questions? Councillor Schilling.
Yes, I just had a quick question, if I may. I'm interested in knowing, probably two parts to my question. Is there any ability to look at stormwater retention in any developments moving forward? And also, do we have a policy around when a subdivision is completed that somebody actually checks that the developers have delivered what they said they're going to deliver within their original plan?
Well, I can start the first bit, which is the second bit. Yes, any land divisions have to go through a certification process. As for the engineering planning issues, I'll defer to my colleagues.
So we obviously, water retention and detention on site has to be done. They can't, depending on where it is, they can't put any more, and Jake can provide any further detail, but yeah, we have to have retention on site so to manage the stormwater flows so it doesn't enhance or be detrimental to further down the stream.
So there's nothing moving forward with climate change and those sorts of things in actually storing that water, and is that something that we might see in the future?
Through you, Mr Mayor, are you talking aquifer recharge or are you talking stormwater management?
Stormwater management.
So stormwater management, basically, as I understand the engineering rules, is that the development has to meet pre-development flows, and stormwater detention is different to stormwater retention. So we do stormwater retention, which is about feeding stormwater into the system so that it can cope it. Detention is a completely different beast and uses up significant amounts of land, which a developer therefore means that it probably won't develop, because you've got to use so much land if you're going to detain all that water, especially as developments get bigger and bigger and bigger. Stormwater aquifer recharge is another conversation again, but stormwater aquifer recharge is problematic in our area because of the geology of the area, and the water allocation plan simply doesn't allow it.
And I think on your other question, they are inspected at practical completion, and then there's usually a 12-month maintenance period as well. Councillor Greatwich.
Just wanted to understand that, to confirm my understanding that the catalyst for this review is entirely internally driven. So, and that was around Concordia and using that as an opportunity to review. So it's not as a result of an external process that we've been required to do this. But I was really interested to see that what we've been trying to do is bring this into alignment with current best practice. So my first question is, I'd just like to understand, what is the definition of current best practice and where does that come from? Is that an external standard or ideology, or is that our own internal assessment of what is current best practice?
Through you, Mr Mayor, so it's a combination. So there's obviously our guiding principles and OS roads and things like that that will dictate what we sort of recommend and minimum size. So we try and work to, obviously that's the minimum. We also try and look at function. So if you take things like the road widths and things like that, trying to ensure there's going to be parking on both sides of the road, that there's still trafficable, because particularly in the subdivisions as they are now, the road widths get smaller, makes it harder to traverse. So we've tried to balance what's realistic in terms of developer expectations and costs, but also making sure we meet community expectations.
May I ask a follow-up question? Yes. So essentially this is a self-determined framework. Great. And so then my understanding is that that next review date that's been put in place, we've kind of proactively gone ahead with this process ahead of the state government's own processes, and so that next review date in 2026 will then take into account the outcomes of that process. Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much.
Can I just add to that, Mr Mayor? We just have to understand that the land division guidelines are exactly that. They're not legislative.
Yes, please. Moved Councillor De Vries and seconded Councillor Hearn. Either one wish to speak to it? All those in favour? Carried. 7.1.3 on page 270. Is the request for funds from the Tanunda Town Reserve, and includes RSL signage on 270. Any questions? Councillor De Vries.
I don't have a question, but I'm just, I guess, informing the council. I actually am a member of the Tanunda RSL. I don't believe I have a conflict of interest, but just in the spirit of disclosure, and this one I won't move for that reason. But I will be happy to vote on it. Yeah.
Moved Councillor Hearn, seconded Councillor Lane. Either one wish to speak? Further comments? All those in favour? Carried. Page 274. Which is the correspondence from the Minister for Local Government in regard to the Adelaide Hills Council request to leave the Gawler River Floodplain Management Authority. I believe the the CEO summed it up very well with a strategy, which is there for your consideration. Councillor Priest?
Yeah, I wish to invoke a conflict of interest as being a board member.
Fair enough, thank you. Any questions? Councillor De Vries moved and seconded Councillor Troop. Either one wish to speak?
Only to say that I'm curious to see where this leads.
Any further comment? All those in favour? Carried. I didn't think he did, but should I point that out? Page 315, which is the revocation of community land classification, allotment 8, George Street, Williamstown. I believe we had a brief update on that. You put?
Addendum. To addendum.
Oh, sorry. Yes, sorry. Yes, we do. Let's go back to the addendum on my other sheet. 7.1.5 is the draft outline of the Concordia Growth Area infrastructure on page 2 of the addendum. Yeah, I just got to find my place now. Councillor De Vries. Oh. Moved Councillor Schilling, seconded Councillor De Vries. Any further comment? All those in favour? Carried. Addendum 7.1.6 is the potential... That's it. 5-year electricity small market contract procurement delegation extension. On page 87. Moved Councillor De Vries, seconded Councillor Greatwich. Either one wish to speak to it? All those in favour? Carried. (7.2.1) Revocation of the community land classification on allotment 8 George Street, Williamstown, page 315. Any questions? Moved Councillor Barrett, seconded Councillor Priest. Either one wish to speak to it?
No, I've spoken to people down there in Williamstown and no responses.
It would be an island, wouldn't it? Councillor Priest? No. No further. All those in favour? Carried. 7.2.2 on page 340. The proposed amendment to the lease licence hire permit policy fee settings. Any questions? Councillor De Vries?
Oh, no, I was happy to move the recommendation.
Okay, I'll just see if there's any questions first. I'll just turn your light off for a moment and see if there's any questions. Okay, Councillor De Vries.
Thank you, Worship. I'm happy to move this. The language of this is...
I'll just get a second.
Oh, sorry.
Councillor Greatwich, second. Councillor De Vries.
So the language of this is a little bit bureaucratic, but I guess it has to be under the circumstances. But the gist of it is that we don't want the user groups who are going to be using Barossa Park to be unduly burdened by the incredible value that they've got. We don't want to end up with something that might end up like dare I say, Mount Barker. But at the same time, I think we need to be also mindful of the fact that we don't want them to make so much money from it that they can buy every grand final. So how we manage that is going to be interesting going forward, but I think it's important that we let the community know that that's the intention behind this and that we want this to be equitable, not just for the good people of the south, but also for the entire valley.
I think Mr McVicker will make sure that the what do they call it, the salary level or the playing level is not at the cap is.
You can see where I'm coming
Yeah.
from. Yeah. So anyway,
Yep.
how we manage it, I do think this is going to be something that will require some finesse.
Yep.
I just thought I'd put that out there, and it must be, I think that has to be made clear to everybody. We don't want to unduly benefit, and certainly we don't want to penalise anybody as a result of what we're doing.
I think also that structure and that plaza area, there's going to be a lot of cleaning that's going to be required. That will be their responsibility.
Yeah, and I'm sure this
Yeah.
is going to be something which is a bit of a watching brief,
Yeah.
and I'm sure the staff will be right on top of it. So, and
Yep.
well done with what we've got so far.
Yep, no, thanks. Councillor Great, do you wish to speak to it? Councillor Hearn.
Thanks, Mayor. Could I just ask, is there any parameters that you've currently got in vogue, ideas of the fee structure for this? Because it's completely different from, say, the Anglican Footy Club or the soccer club. It's a big pie that you've got to mix everyone together, and some could be paying more than others. And have you got any parameters set in mind at this stage?
Through you, Mr Mayor. All of the stakeholders will have the exact same fee setting principles applied that all other stakeholders across our various sporting precincts will. The settings are designed to be scalable based on the operating costs, and then they have those same subsidies applied as well. We don't anticipate that the open space is of any superior or high cost outcome compared to any of other precincts. It's really just the main club room around the written down value, due to the nature of the agreement, which really drives whether it's a lease, a licence or a permit, how those settings are determined. So we believe that the remaining policy settings are fair and equitable, and we'll initiate those agreements on that basis.
It's just that the footy club rooms and that building is all mixed together, and I don't think there's anything else left in the valley that even gets close. So is the footy club going to be disadvantaged through being the prime?
No, that's why we've put together today's council report. So the introduction of the cap is the equalising measure, and then they will be responsible for the same extent of responsibilities as any other club for that footprint, and we will negotiate with them any items that sit outside or are unreasonable for them to assume the responsibility because they're specific plant or equipment that relate to that facility, i.e. the lift. So the parameters allow for that already to be addressed outside of the core fees and charges model.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Mayor. Lindock, with the sheer scale and value of the asset, is an outlier compared with any other asset we've got as a council. Thankfully, we've learnt from Mount Barker, and I'd like to commend Jo Moen and her team for what they've come up with. I played most of my football down in the Adelaide Hills Footy League and against Mount Barker, so I've still got a lot of friends down there, and to see what's happened here, I just can't praise Jo and her team enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just would like to know if the Barossa Park is being rented out to a conference or another event. Who gets that kickback from that event? Does it go to the sporting club or does it come to council? How are you managing that type of booking arrangement?
Through you, Mr Mayor, absolutely. It's exactly the same operating model as all of the other clubs. We predicate their lease agreement on the basis that they can recoup the costs towards its maintenance and its the actual lease fee by hiring out the facility. Yes, that facility will generate additional revenue. However, that is required to offset the significant maintenance costs that are associated with maintaining a building of that nature. And that's where we have looked at the operating model to make sure that it is equitable and also sustainable. Over time, we will continue to work with the club to review what those settings look like. You've got to understand as well that when the state is utilising the facility, there is no compensatory mechanism. The state's already funded their contribution towards that utilisation, so there's no net necessarily benefit from a higher fee point of view for the club, but it can absolutely activate the space and will need to, and we will continue to support that for them to generate the revenue to pay for a fee of the nature. So $10 million is not a small sum for the determination of the base fee in any event. It will be a higher fee than any other club across our region. So at this point in time, based on our estimates, we think that that is a reasonable position to continue with. Over time, if we find that the revenue is significantly more than we'd anticipated, we can certainly bring it back to the chamber. There will be review clauses within the lease agreement to allow us to understand what that looks like into the future, in order to ensure that the community, on the balance, is offering compensation at a reasonable and appropriate level, versus them being able to generate revenue in excess of other clubs, and then as a net outcome, I suppose, versus the gross outcome, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you. I can see that the document really, the sentiments there to support the club, because they are a voluntary organisation and it's a multi-million-dollar facility. So I think it's, I'm happy that we are there to support that club and make sure that that whole site is a success for everyone.
Thank you.
Yep. Do you wish to close the debate?
Just to reiterate what I said, that I think transparency is really important to this, and community expectation. I understand the pros and cons of what we're doing, and that they're being supported, but it will be under review as well.
Put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. 7.2.3, the IT hardware purchasing model change proposal on page 357. Any questions? Moved Councillor Priest and seconded Councillor Evans. Wish to speak to it, Councillor? Any further comments? All those in favour? Carried. Page 364. Is the Barossa Park endorsement of the lease and licence arrangements for the Barossa District's Football and Netball Club. Page 364. Any questions? Councillor De Vries?
No, I'm moving the recommendation. Yeah, if we didn't do this, we'd look pretty silly, wouldn't we?
Previous item, thank you.
Any further comment? All those in favour? Carried. Page 370 is the monthly financial report as of the 31st of March 2025 with a recommendation there. Any questions? Someone wish to move? Councillor Hearn and seconded Councillor Barrett. Either one wish to speak? No further comment. All those in favour? Carried. Page 373. The Eden Valley Public Toilet, gifting of an asset, 7.3.1, with a recommendation. Any questions? Sorry, first, questions? A mover. Councillor Evans and Councillor Priest. Either one wish to speak? No further comment? All those in favour? Carried. Page 377, recognition of Julie Ann Coombe, 367 with a recommendation. Any question? Councillor Priest.
Before I move a motion, I'd just like to ask a question. I'm happy to move this, but also when I actually moved this motion originally, I did speak about naming a street and a road after the late Julie Ann Coombe, and I see that the council does say about Kalimna Estate. There's a possibility, I think, or a great possibility, we can have a street named after the Kalimna Estate, a street or a road. So through the chair, I want to move a motion that we go that way, a street or a road in Kalimna, the new Kalimna Estate, when it comes up. Because if you look at the report that says about we can do that in the Kalimna Estate, through the chair.
Well, yes, you can move a motion, so can you phrase your motion for us?
Oh, yes. I'd like to move a motion that council look at, in the new Kalimna Estate, look at naming a road or a street in regards to the late Julie Ann Coombe.
Just need clarification. Have we got, are those already named or not?
No, it says that
There's one available.
Okay, all right.
in the report. It says that it's still.
Okay, fair enough. I just wanted to make sure. Yep.
Just noting that it'll only be Coombe Street or Road. It won't be, it's only single, we don't do two names, so it's only a single
that's the other
surname.
point.
Sorry, I couldn't understand his voice. Sorry.
No, that's the other point. Our policy, we've dropped two names. We only go to Coonat. That our policy.
Yep, that's fine with me. Yep, yep,
You're okay with
yep,
Coonat?
yep,
Okay.
yep.
Don't mind if I wordsmith it.
Yep, no. Thank you.
Next available new road or street.
Sorry, through the chair, just a brief. I've noticed that my street is named after a former councillor, so that's more than.
We don't do it anymore, though.
Oh, sorry, you don't do it anymore. I apologise, because that is per crook. Oh, okay. Yeah, no worries. I thought we could hyphenate it J.A. Coombe, but yeah, that's fine.
Got rid of that, what, about 10 years ago?
Oh, okay.
10 years ago?
All right.
It was getting silly. It was,
Only one street reference, so we'll go name the final street.
well, that's more.
So we could put either way, avenue or street, whatever it's going to be. Yeah. Well, I'm going to do the both. So could we have them through the chair? Can we have one as part one and part two, to move them as both as one? But
Do it both.
But yeah, okay. Yeah, do both. Move them as one.
We're doing both.
No, I think going up is either way, street or avenue.
No. The both, the bench and the street.
Yeah, that's what's there.
So the bench has been taken off.
No.
No, that's still there.
Okay, thank you.
That's still there.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I'll move that.
Okay. A seconder? Councillor Lane, you can speak to it now. Councillor Priest, if you wish.
I just think this would be a great honour for the late Julie Ann Coombe, who's done so much for our community. Notice that we have named a lot of streets and roads and parks and gardens off of former mayors and councillors, and befitting as it may be as well. But I think this is fitting that we do name this after the late Julie Ann Coombe. And her family would be very honoured as well.
Do you need the word final in there? What's that?
There's only one street left.
One left.
Oh, okay.
Councillor Lane,
No, it's appropriate. That's all
any further questions? Put the motions, all those in favour? Oh, sorry. Oh.
Can I speak to the motion?
Oh, sorry. Further comment?
Yes, please. Can you turn your microphone on?
Oh, sorry.
Yes, councillor Grayson.
I spoke against this when it was first brought to council, even though that put me in the extraordinarily uncomfortable and undignified position of speaking against something that at its heart I agree with, which is recognition of Julie's contribution to this community. However, I repeat what I said last time, which is there is a process in place. Councillor Priest says that he was unaware of that process because no one at council raised it with him. I note that that matter has come before us in the agenda previously. So, in fact, Councillor Priest never even needed to ask a question. He just needed to remember the work that had come before this chamber in the past. I find it so distasteful that we are having this conversation in this chamber. There is a process and a procedure in place, and taking this ad hoc, willy-nilly approach to these things might feel very respectful and nice, but in fact it is deeply disrespectful to a very broad range of other people in our community who could be put up for recognition in this way. And that is what I object to. The laissez-faire attitude that has brought this matter in front of us in the way that it has. And I would just like that objection to be noted.
Mayor, I object to I sit here in this chamber full of confidence of was put through the agenda, etc., and I'm not going to be tainted with a laissez-faire attitude at all. So I object to the objection.
May I say, look, everyone is allowed their point of view, and I, in many regards, concur with Councillor Greatwich. Just be careful with what you're doing here, because you're doing a plaque and you're also doing a street naming. So you're setting a precedent, and there is a process. But if you choose to go that way, that's your choice. But I just echo those sentiments. And look, I agree. This is not anything against the lady in any way, shape or form. But by golly, we've had some great people out there. And we'll continue to have some great people. Just be aware of how and what you do when you start to set precedents. But this is your choice.
Thank you, through the Mayor. That was actually along the lines of my question. Was I noted here, with absolute respect to Julie Coombe and the work that she's done, that it's been recommended that we do install a plaque as well as now a street or avenue sign name. Is that standard practice for remembrance for iconic people in our region? Should we not be just potentially considering one to remain for the purpose of consistency? Or is it not really a major, that's what you were just discussing then, but how much of an issue is it when we consider moving forward with procedure and protocol?
I guess in my recollection of in the past, no. I always, my personal view is I always favour a plaque because you can talk more about the person. The street, you know, but anyway, this is what's before you at the moment. If you're not comfortable with it, you either vote for it or against. I guess what I highlight, no, I'll say no more because I'm starting to lead.
No, thank you very much. That's pretty much clarified my question. Thank you.
Yes, I respect Councillor Greatwich's concerns. I had those similar concerns when this was brought last time. The reason I'm going to be supporting it this time is because, for better or worse, Council made a decision, and so I'm basically responding to that and respecting that. But I do note that I think that was a very close vote, probably one of the closest this council has had, and I was actually on Councillor Greatwich's side of the ledger on that occasion. But in this instance, having made that decision, I'm now supporting the view of the council at the time.
May I ask a follow-up procedural question? I'm just not sure about, in terms of a process forward, if this motion is defeated, maybe then put an alternative forward? Okay. I just wanted to understand.
Did I actually speak? No, did I speak? I objected to the objection. So have I spoken? I haven't spoken to the motion. Okay. Really? Well, I was going to say, would the mover and seconder be prepared to withdraw one of those, a street or the bench? Because as you mentioned, the plaque to me is the best way.
I think procedural will just let what's before you be dealt with, and then you can make a decision either way after you make a decision.
Could we ask Councillor Priest?
I'm going up the mayor through the chair's authority.
Yeah, that's what's before you.
Yeah, that was my question too, just in terms of if this motion is defeated, can we put forward a plaque, for instance? My concern is just the two, setting a precedent with two really significant acknowledgements, irrespective of how amazing Julie has been, in that we're going to be dealt with this in the future and how we manage that as well.
You could quite easily. Before I put the motion, Councillor Priest, you've got the right to close the debate.
Enough's been said. Now let's get on with the vote. Thank you.
Okay, councillors, all those in favour of the recommendation that's before you? Those against? The motion is lost. You can call for a division. Those who voted for the motion, please stand. Councillor Barrett, Councillor Priest, Councillor Lane and Councillor Schilling. Those seating is Councillor Hearn. Stay standing, please. Councillor Evans, Councillor Greatwich, Councillor Troop, Councillor De Vries and Councillor Thompson.
The motion is lost. You call the motion.
Okay, the motion is lost.
Can I propose that we, I'd like to forward the motion as it was put in the agenda.
Moved Councillor Greatwich and seconded Councillor Evans. You wish to speak to it, Councillor Greatwich?
No, thank you. Janie. Sorry, Mr Mayor. May I speak to it very briefly?
Yes.
Only to acknowledge that I think that the executive or the staff that prepared the report was clearly very thoughtful, and notwithstanding the position that was taken at the recent council meeting where this was considered, I do think that the solution that was put forward is an appropriate and thoughtful and respectful position, and that's why I am very happy to move it.
Thank you, through the Mayor. Just to reiterate Councillor Greatwich's comments, to acknowledge that this is a motion that's put forward with great respect to Julie Coombs and also to our team that organised and put this forward. And we act for the whole community, so I also would like to acknowledge and respect everybody else who's done incredible things for this community and who's on that list to be recognised as well. for the sake of consistency. Thank you.
Councillor Barrett.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I found this whole discussion, debate, somewhat unedifying. I haven't liked it. The lady in question, she fits the criteria as a local identity with significant achievement. The reason I liked a road or a street is because it is in perpetuity, whereas I find plaques, they get lost and fall off and you'll lose it. And that's why I favoured the option with the street. But I can live with this, but it's not my favourite option. So they've got some idea what's behind my thinking.
Any further comment? All those in favour? Carried. 7.3.3, page 380 is the Barossa Rugby Precinct. Interchange shelters, page 380. Any questions? Councillor De Vries.
No, I'm sorry, I was going to move it.
All right, it doesn't look like there's any questions. You can move it.
Okay.
Moved
I'd like to move the recommendation.
and seconded Councillor Evans. Councillor De Vries.
I just, as a piece of interest for those who might not have been at the game on Sunday, this worship on, actually Saturday you informed that Barossa Park, the playing surface is supposed to be the MCG or Adelaide Oval on a good day. So it's considered to be one of the best surfaces in Australia for AFL. I was informed by the head of SA Rugby last year that the Barossa Rugby Precinct is considered to be the best rugby surface in the state. And so I think this is going to just add to what is already a very, very fine facility. Thank you.
I think Councillor De Vries covered that one well. Thank you. Through the Mayor.
Any further comments? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Okay, thank you, Councillor. 7.4.1 is the Lyndoch Christmas Street Party request to operate scenic flights on page 383.
Mr Mayor. Excuse me, Mr Mayor. We've got a slightly altered recommendation.
Okay. Council approve the request from the Barossa Helicopters to operate short scenic flights from the village green during the Lyndoch Street Party to be held on the 12th of December 2025, subject to the approval of the event and concurrent with the organising committee in writing.
We'll leave that there.
You're happy to move?
To the event approval.
I'll just take questions first and then I'll take a mover in a second. If there's no questions.
Just one, Your Worship. This is for Mr McVicker. What are we doing in regards to the potential for this causing nuisance to residents within the township?
So through the Mayor, this was a similar report that came to the Chamber late last year. So Barossa Helicopters submitted a management plan and their risk assessment. So it'll be the short-term flights throughout the duration of the Christmas parade. And I guess noise associated with those helicopter flights is something that the residents dealt with this year or last year without any complaint to council, as far as I'm aware, and that they'll be happy, I assume. That was Father Christmas, sorry, you're correct. Thank you, Joe. But I assume there's an acceptance to the joy flights for the duration of the Christmas party.
Yeah, my main concern, Oh, there we go. Sorry, guys. Yeah, my main concern, as you know, there have been issues with noise from flyover, where individuals have been unduly singled out, if you like, for. So I'm just hoping that they are made aware that we would like them to try to minimise. I mean, for the day over the town, I suspect people will be fine with it. But you know, if they're going out away from the town around various farms and locations and so forth, they are mindful of the people that they're flying over.
I just have a quick question, and I meant to ask earlier today. Are we jumping the gun a little bit? Because I'm not. Last year it returned as a street party. It's previously been on the Oval. Is there some understanding that the Lindop group will be having back at the village? A street party or back at the Oval? I'm not certain.
Through the Mayor, it's a good question. We did try and work with the operator to defer this report. They were quite keen to get it before the council as soon as possible, and hence the reason for the amended motion as well, that it's subject to the approval of that event and the event organisers.
Thank you. Councillor Greatwich.
Similarly, actually, even before Councillor De Vries had raised that question, the note that I had made to myself was to ask around the requirement to file flight plans for events like this, because I do appreciate that there is some disturbance that will happen to the town generally, but I similarly have had numerous complaints with regard to local residents, and I would note that of the approximately 73 million people that I spoke to over Gather Round, 2 people individually came up to talk to me to ask about helicopter flight plans and flight paths, sorry. So it's sort of in my mind, and I appreciate that I might be sort of extrapolating a little bit, but I just wondered whether there didn't seem to me that as any part of the documentation that is submitted that there is any sort of agreed route that they take and then adhere to. Is that something that can form part of these sorts of considerations?
They have to go through aviation and they have to determine, that's dealt with, as I understand, through that body. Yep. CASA, that's it?
If it's controlled airspace.
Controlled
Unfortunately, I did look
airspace,
after an
that's
airport
right.
years ago.
Yep.
Yep. It depends on what the event is sometimes and if it's controlled airspace at the time as well. So Gather Round's a good example. That was declared it and had to have various approval levels.
Even our drones going up down there had to be controlled. Yep. Recommendation there which clarifies that point.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I move.
Councillor Evans. Councillor Hearn.
I agree with what's being said around the chamber. I didn't get one complaint. There were boodles of flights coming in on Sunday to the Oval, and airspace from Keys helicopters, they can fly wherever they like. They come over our house plenty of times during certain events and lots of sightseeing visits. So I would imagine that CASA, whoever controls them, would let them do it. And people on the day, you've got to enhance the Barossa rather than whinge about what people are doing. And it's only short term, and I don't think they would upset too many people.
Any further comment? All those in favour? Carried. 7.4.2 is the Barossa Creative Industry Centre progress update on page 392. We done that one, Councillor? Yep. Okay, we'll stay with the Creative Industry Centre. You wish to speak to it?
Just to ensure that anyone listening in who may be concerned about some of the details, that this allows for any minor changes that may occur as the building proceeds, and any significant amendments will be reported to council. There is a minor issue to do with how this interfaces with the Tanunda Club. That's something that I know Mr. Vic has been looking into, as of yourself, Your Worship, and I just wanted to identify that we're working very closely with the Tanunda Club because this is a community asset, as they are, and we want this to work well as a total precinct. Thank you.
Just excited to see how this is evolving as we, get closer and closer to the build. And I think that being involved with this right back at the beginning, this is becoming more and more like exactly what the community has been wanting. So it's becoming, and in fact, I can see that the consultation is now embedded into what we're producing now and the pictures and things like that. So I'm very well done to the staff.
Any further comment? All those in favour? Carried. Councillors, that gets us to... Oh, sorry. Oh, gee, it's been a long week. 743. I crossed it out before we dealt with it. Page 404. Which is the draft planning, development and infrastructure, general miscellaneous number 2, amendment regulations 2025. Any questions? Councillor Greatwich.
I'm so concerned about this. My question was, and I'm sorry, I've been madly reading back this afternoon through our previous agendas to try and find it. In the last 6 months, there was a matter included in the matters for information only, which was in respect of a piece of legislation that had been proposed, enabling the state government to allocate or fast-track the process of approving large tracts of land for housing developments. And I remember at the time we discussed it because the powers that were included in that were extraordinary. My question is, are these two things related? Because it seems to me that they are. I know that is an appalling question to ask because I can't remember the name and I can't find the name of the legislation. So I wanted to ask that question, but then also just to understand what the process going forward is in terms of the timeline of we're making a submission and then when that might be returned to us in an updated draft format.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Councillor.
Sorry, I know that's...
No, that's fine. I know exactly the report you're
Great.
talking about.
Well, I couldn't find it.
Because I wrote it.
Yeah.
It's the state...
I did read it, but I did.
Now the bloody name of the bill's just gone out of my head. Coordination Bill, correct. That's been read into Parliament and hasn't gone much further at this point in time. No, they're not explicitly linked at all to very different pieces of legislative outcome. In terms of the technical nature of this particular variation, I'll let the director speak about that one and what the processes are from here. That piece of legislation, we're still waiting to understand its pathway through Parliament.
Through the Mayor, so the consultation's open for another week. So it's our plan to, once that's finalised and all submissions being received, we'll bring a report back to Council to advise elected members of the outcome of the consultation process. But as highlighted in the submission from Aaron, who may or may not wish to add anything further, there are some concerns around the proposals and I guess taking away power from local government to fast-track housing and development.
Absolutely, yeah. May I ask a follow-up question? My follow-up question is whether in matters such as this, because I think when I read through it, it seemed to me that the components that raise concern for us would be broad in their application, if not universal to local government, but there would be, I imagine, there would be other local governments that have similar concerns. Do we liaise or coordinate with our local government colleagues in terms of not just all submitting individual submissions, that perhaps maybe mirrors or reflect one another, but do we also present a unified submission or a collated position on some of these things, which would cause, I think, if not universal concern, then widespread concern?
Through the Mayor, I may defer to Aaron because he is a member of the Local Government Assessment Managers Forum and they may have assisted us here.
Sorry to pull you up, please.
Can I just duck in before that, Mr Mayor? Regardless of what a uniform LGA position may be, there are times at which that uniform position may not be obvious because some communities may be quite happy to have these fast track.
Yeah.
So we always make an estimate in my team, what is the right way to go about this? And we think regardless of what a consolidated state LG position might be, we would also recommend that we absolutely make our own submission.
Absolutely.
And in certain cases, we will say, here's the LGA position and we agree, but sometimes we may not.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. I agree with that.
Oh, it's me.
Thank you, Councillor Greatwich, for that question through the Mayor. Yeah, we engage quite heavily with the sector in terms of myself through the Assessment Manager Forum, which is a forum that's been established to represent assessment managers. And we are separately making a submission to raise similar concerns on behalf of assessment managers acting for local government in relation to a number of the regulation changes. Also, Sarah Elding, who is actually on our panel, she's been appointed, she's actually in a secondment with the Local Government Association, and she is aware of this regulation change, has been talking to the policy planners in councils to also raise concerns on behalf of the sector. The biggest concern that we see with this bill, this regulation change, is in relation to the proposal to remove the discretion for councils to agree to vesting of infrastructure where they comply with the design standard. And this does relate to the matter you spoke to earlier in relation to design standards, where at the moment councils apply their own design land division guidelines, but with the state wanting to go to a unified position on policies, they are wanting to remove that discretion where if a development complies with certain infrastructure designs, that they have to be accepted. Now that raises concern about, well, what happens if it has defects in it? It's not constructed appropriately. We need to still have that discretion in our view, and that raises risk of inferior substandard infrastructure being received that then puts us at potential costs for our communities. So we have objected in the draft submission to that particular matter. There's some other matters in the regulation package that we also object to. Thanks.
Yes, I have two questions. Firstly, I thought that it was just pertaining to those maps of those areas within the report, that it wasn't something that was going to be blanket for all of South Australia. Am I wrong in assuming that? Because it's got some specific
Through you, Mr.
areas on.
I think you were talking
maps.
about the EFPAs in the information report.
Yeah.
This
So
does apply to the whole state.
it does apply to the whole
The
state.
EFPAs,
Okay.
are they EFPAs? That doesn't sound right.
Oh, I still had one more question. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, through the chair, the separate report, the information report that was brought forward in relation to the FPA does relate to legislative change that's proposed to be introduced by the government to amend that act to enable those five growth areas that are currently constrained by that legislation that would propose to be brought into the long-term 30-year plan for urban growth.
Thank you. And also, on page 431, they talk about an expert panel. So I was kind of wondering then who becomes responsible for assessing the minor variations? Like, does that go to our DAP, or do we then have to create a whole new panel of expert people to make those decisions on our behalf? And is it elected members or is it planning, people with planning knowledge?
Yeah, so through the chair, or the mayor, sorry, this regulation package was partly introduced to implement recommendations of the expert panel. If you remember, a couple of years ago, there was an expert panel established by the government to evaluate, I guess, the success of the new planning system and to provide for a health check, basically, of how it was going. And so there was about 100 recommendations, and this regulation package does fulfil a number of those recommendations. One of them relates to concerns around minor variations, that at the moment private certifiers can have discretion to determine what is a minor variation to a planning decision, and there's some concern from the sector around there being too much rope for decisions to be made that might be outside of scope. So part of the proposal is to tighten that up, which broadly I think is a good thing. And so there has been some further discussion in the sector about that. Yep.
Any further questions? If not, there's a motion there. Councillor Greatwich and seconded Councillor Hearn. I'll make the decision up here then. Either one wish to speak to it? No further comment. All those in favour? Carried. We'll now move into some confidential items, and I'll ask that we have a motion to go into confidence. Those items will include Concordia policies and a matter to do with 18A Elizabeth Street drainage easements and service levels, along with the sale of a non-payable council rates and a tender with regard to the caravan management services. Someone move we go into confidence. Oh, sorry, Councillor Greatwich, seconded Councillor Hearn. All those in favour? Carried. Those in favour, we go into confidence. Carried. We will take that item. It's moved Councillor De Vries that we go into confidence, seconded Councillor Greatwich. All those in favour? Carried.
Out.
Council will move to the next item in confidence is the tender for caravan park management services. Move we go into confidence. Councillor Breeze, seconded Councillor Greatwich. All those in favour?
You know, if you're standing up, you can't.
Carried. We out. Yep. Councillor, that concludes our April meeting of council. Our next scheduled meeting is Tuesday, the 20th of May, 2025 at 5:30. Thank you for your attendance.